month again. The records were so successful, I was back on top. It was funny to coming out of the cold after all that time. And then all of a sudden on the front cover of the NME again, and everyone loved me. I was a mixture of amusement and I suppose a bit of relief as well, that people still like me.
Around that time, we went and did Glastonbury, and I think that once again, Paul's reputation as a live player was really, really hit, because I can remember that we were playing just as the sun was going down, which is always the best time to play at the festival. 100,000 people there, and you could tell that they were with us. That's when the live thing really started to go into orbit.
I certainly couldn't have predicted how it all went, how it all blew up as big as it did in the early 90s. After the council split up, I had no idea what was going to happen. I didn't know if I was ever going to go back into music. I had no fucking idea whatsoever. I thought maybe it was all over.
He had never ever before paid any attention to people saying he was fantastic and you're great and da-da-da. He'd just taken it in his stride, never had a problem, and he nearly lost it, then got it back. I think Paul decided this was his time now to act the rock star, and that just meant going out drinking more. Maybe before, when he wouldn't flirt with women, maybe he's doing that now. I don't know. He kind of just lost the plot a little bit, and it kind of threw him off. You know, he kind of got on a wild horse and got thrown off very badly.
They split up pretty much the night that we did Glastonbury. He just told me that they'd split and he wasn't sure where he was going to be staying, and all those horrible things that happened. And I was like, blimey, this is as good as it's been for ages. But like, you know, maybe there is that element of needing chaos around you. Some people are like that.
I was running around an awful lot. I was having a fucking good time as well and loving it. The downside was that I'd ruined my relationship and my marriage, and that's inexcusable, really.
I know now to this day that some people spend their whole life looking for what I had at that time with Paul, and if I never get it again, I actually did have it. Some people are still looking for it, so that's exactly what we had. It was fantastic.
I met him in '94. I just walked straight up to him and put my hand out and I went, alright mate. And he might have given me his number actually. That's fucking so bizarre, you know, getting up the next day, it's like, Paul Weller's phone, it can't be, that's ridiculous. And I gave him a ring, I went over to his house. And within about 10 minutes we were writing a set list for an imaginary supergroup.
It was the first generation of musicians I felt I had anything in common with, even though I was 10 years older than them. There was no one in the 80s I ever related to. And meeting Noel and people like that, Graham and Damon from Birmingham, they were people with a similar musical vision, I would say. I certainly couldn't remember feeling like that before.
The Jam generation just came through, you know. We were Jam fans. You know, that's my big things with the Jam and the Smiths, you know what I mean? And the Jam made way for the Smiths, who then split up and they made way for the Stone Roses, who then split up and they made way for us, you know. So, just our little, you know, our little mod revivalist generation come through, man, and check for the man.
The whole Britpop thing kind of happened, and the term the mod father, Paul being cited by the likes of Blur, likes of Oasis, saying like, you know, Weller's cool, Weller's great. I guess songwriting came back to the kind of focus, and it was about the songs again, and there was a kind of a resurgence of pride in things that were English, and I think that resurgence was a very obvious link to cite Paul Weller as an icon for a lot of those groups.
Well, Stanley Road was me at the peak of my writing ability, at least up to that point anyway. The album all just seemed to click musically, I thought. Me and Whitehead seemed to sort of really gone to a different level. Meeting Steve Craddock. But you know, it's like anything, you know, after you sort of made 2 or 3 records together, you kind of, you know, you get this kind of team thing going, you know. So we kind of all knew we had something special going on, I feel, anyway. And it was a very magical time. It wasn't a concept album, but it had some sort of themes running through it. There's a lot of things about growing up and about Woking, I suppose.
For me, it's a record that kind of encapsulates a particular time, not just about looking back, but about looking at where he was, thinking, as you do at that particular time in your life, well, where did I come from, and what influence has it had on me, and what does it mean to me, and what does it mean into where I'm going?
You reinvented yourself for the 3rd time, like...
I don't reinvent myself.
You never reinvent yourself?
No. I just change, you know, people evolve and change.
I was naturally referring to the 3 periods in your life. And can you describe the jam period in 1 sentence?
Yeah, they're kind of like my teenage years, you know. And the Style Council was like me in my 20s, and this now is me in my 30s. So to me, it's just, you know, me just evolving over time. So that's why I can't think of it as being me reinventing myself, really. It's kind of a natural process to me. Songs there for me, the whole vibe of the album, you know, it works as a whole body of music, I feel, as well.
After the critical acclaim of Wildwood, and all of a sudden this album comes out and just starts selling some more, and just sells some more, right across the board. 2 million records sold. So obviously the gigs were selling out, and when he really gets into that kind of out there zone and the music's just happening, it's a force of nature.
I'd clawed my way back up. My little star was in its ascendancy. There was this kind of surge of popularity. You could feel this thing sort of growing and building. I suppose it's a similar sort of feeling as when the Jam started to take off, you know, you feel this surge from underneath you. It was an exciting time, you know, and I suppose exciting to sort of feel it second time round.
After '95, I think that in the public's, with the success of Stanley Road, I think it kind of established everything about his career. That's become almost to a point where Paul is now, that I think live is where he loves being. I mean, you've only got to look at something like the Hyde Park thing in 2002, and what an amazing night. We walked on stage and